Have you ever wondered why some people seem destined for greatness while others struggle their entire lives, never quite reaching their potential? What if I told you that the difference between these two groups isn't luck, intelligence, or connections, but rather a powerful truth that has been hidden in plain sight for centuries? My friends, this video found you today because there's a truth you're ready to see. A truth that has transformed thousands of lives across generations. A truth that I, Napoleon Hill, discovered after interviewing over 500 of the world's most successful individuals over 25 years. What I'm about to share with you isn't taught in schools, it isn't passed down in families, and it certainly isn't promoted by those who benefit from keeping the masses in mediocrity. The wealthiest 1% of society understands and applies this knowledge every single day, while the other 99% remain completely unaware of its existence. Did you know that according to my research, only 3 in every 100 people ever achieve true financial independence and personal fulfillment? And of those 3, nearly all of them consciously or unconsciously apply the principles I'm about to share with you? This isn't coincidence, it's causation. I've witnessed men and women from humble beginnings, with no formal education and no advantages, rise to positions of incredible wealth and influence using nothing but the power of this fundamental truth. Meanwhile, I've watched brilliant minds with every advantage squander their potential because they remained blind to what I'm about to reveal. The problem isn't that you haven't worked hard enough. It's not that you lack talent or opportunity. The real problem, the one that keeps you awake at night, wondering why success feels just beyond your grasp, is that you've been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding of how success actually works. Every day, millions of people exhaust themselves trying to climb a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. They follow conventional wisdom that promises results but delivers only frustration. They chase goals without understanding the invisible laws that govern achievement. What if I told you that there is a method, a proven, reliable method that can transform your life in ways you never thought possible? That the very obstacles you believe are holding you back could become the stepping stones to your greatest accomplishments. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to harness this transformative power. I'll show you the exact principles that Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and countless others used to build empires and change the world. More importantly, I'll show you how everyday people just like you have applied these same principles to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and achieve extraordinary success. But before we continue, I must warn you, what I'm about to share will challenge everything you think you know about success. It will require you to question beliefs you've held your entire life, and it will demand that you take responsibility for your circumstances in ways that might initially feel uncomfortable. For those brave enough to continue, I promise a revelation that will forever change how you approach your goals, your challenges, and your life's purpose. The choice, as always, is yours. If you're ready to join the select few who understand this life-changing truth, subscribe to this channel now. By doing so, you're making a declaration to yourself and to the universe that you're ready to step into your power and claim the life you were meant to live. Now, let's explore why conventional approaches to success so often lead to disappointment and frustration. The fundamental problem facing most people today is not a lack of information. We live in an age where knowledge is more accessible than ever before. The problem is not a shortage of opportunities despite economic challenges. There are more pathways to success today than at any point in human history. No, my friends, the true problem lies much deeper. The real challenge is that most individuals are trapped in a prison they cannot see, with walls built of limiting beliefs and a ceiling constructed of false assumptions about how success actually works. This invisible prison constrains your thinking, restricts your actions, and ultimately determines the upper limits of what you believe possible for yourself. Let me be direct. 97% of people will live and die without ever realizing their true potential. They will accept lives of quiet desperation, always sensing they were meant for more but never understanding why fulfillment remains elusive. They will blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for their failures, never recognizing that the primary obstacle to their success exists within their own minds. I've studied failure extensively. I've interviewed thousands who failed to achieve their dreams, analyzed their stories, and identified patterns. What I discovered is that conventional approaches to success fundamentally misunderstand the mechanisms of achievement. The common wisdom, work hard, get educated, save money, avoid risks, is not only incomplete but often actively harmful to your progress. Consider Thomas, a brilliant young man I met in Pittsburgh. Thomas had followed every rule society prescribed. He earned multiple degrees with honors. He secured a respectable position. He saved diligently. Yet, at 45, he confided in me that he felt hollow successful by external standards but profoundly unfulfilled. His story is not unique. I've encountered countless individuals who did everything right, yet found themselves wondering why happiness and true prosperity remained just beyond their grasp. Or consider Maria, a woman from modest beginnings who started 3 businesses that failed despite her tremendous effort. She worked 18-hour days, sacrificed her health and relationships, yet couldn't understand why success eluded her. When I analyzed her approach, I discovered she was applying massive effort but with a fundamentally flawed understanding of the principles that govern achievement. The conventional approach fails because it focuses entirely on actions, while ignoring the invisible forces that determine whether those actions bear fruit. It's like trying to sail a ship without understanding the winds and currents. You might move, but rarely in the direction you intend. Most people operate with a transactional mindset. They believe that input equals output in a linear fashion, that hard work automatically produces proportional rewards. But the truly successful understand that achievement operates according to entirely different laws. They recognize that certain types of thoughts and actions create compound effects that multiply their results exponentially. The majority who fail also misunderstand the relationship between thought and reality. They don't recognize that thought is creative, not merely reflective, that the world you experience is shaped first in the workshop of your mind, before it materializes in your external circumstances. I've observed another critical distinction between the majority who struggle and the minority who thrive. Those who fail consistently react to life, while those who succeed deliberately create it. The unsuccessful allow their mental states to be dictated by external conditions, while the successful maintain dominion over their thoughts regardless of circumstances. Perhaps most importantly, those who achieve extraordinary results understand something that eludes most people: the principle of mental harmony. They recognize that contradictory thoughts, beliefs that oppose each other, create internal conflict that dissipates power and prevents the mind from exerting its full creative force. Let me share with you the story of Robert, a factory worker I met during my research. Robert complained bitterly about his circumstances, blaming his employer, the economy, and his lack of education for his financial struggles. Yet when I asked if he believed he could create a more prosperous life, he insisted he could. This contradiction, holding simultaneously to the belief that external forces controlled his destiny and that he could determine his future, created discord in his mind that neutralized his potential power. I've watched brilliant individuals with tremendous knowledge fail, while those with half their intelligence and education prospered beyond measure. I've seen the physically strong falter where the seemingly weak persevered. I've witnessed the privileged squander opportunities that the disadvantaged would have transformed into empires. The difference was never in their circumstances, but in their application, conscious or unconscious, of the principles I'm about to share with you. What separates those who achieve extraordinary success from those who merely dream of it is not what most people think. It isn't intelligence, education, connections, or luck, though these factors may play minor roles. The true distinction lies in understanding and applying certain immutable laws that govern achievement, laws as consistent and reliable as gravity. The struggling majority attempts to violate these laws daily, fighting an unwinnable battle against principles that have operated since the beginning of civilization. The triumphant minority, whether consciously or instinctively, aligns themselves with these forces, allowing them to work through them rather than against them. Now let me reveal to you what these principles are, and how you can begin applying them in your own life immediately. What I am about to share with you represents the distilled wisdom from my lifetime of research into the science of success. After interviewing over 500 of the most accomplished men and women of my era, from Thomas Edison to Henry Ford, from John D. Rockefeller to Theodore Roosevelt, I discovered that underlying all achievement, regardless of field or circumstance, are certain fundamental principles that operate with unfailing precision. This knowledge wasn't handed to me. I earned it through 25 years of dedicated research, countless interviews, and meticulous analysis. When Andrew Carnegie first commissioned me to undertake this study, he warned me it would require decades of focused effort. He was right. The principles I discovered are both profound in their simplicity and revolutionary in their application. What makes this approach different from conventional success strategies is that it addresses the root cause rather than the symptoms of underachievement. Instead of offering tactical advice, work harder, manage your time better, learn particular skills, my philosophy targets the foundational mental processes that precede and shape all external results. The system I've developed isn't merely a set of techniques or strategies. It's a complete philosophy of achievement, a coherent framework that explains how success actually happens, why so few achieve it, and how anyone can join the ranks of the exceptional by understanding and applying these immutable laws. I call this framework the science of personal achievement, and its effectiveness has been demonstrated thousands of times across all walks of life. I've personally witnessed individuals transform their circumstances so dramatically that acquaintances could scarcely recognize them after just a few years of applying these principles. Consider the case of a young man I'll call Edward. When I first met him, he was working as a clerk, making barely enough to provide for his basic needs. He had no special advantages, no wealthy family, no exceptional education, no powerful connections. But after learning the principles I'm about to share with you, he began applying them systematically. Within 3 years, he had established his own business. Within 5, he had become financially independent. Within 10, he had amassed a fortune that provided security for generations of his family. Was Edward exceptionally talented? No. Did he work harder than everyone else? Not particularly. What distinguished him was his understanding and application of the laws that govern. Achievement laws that operate whether you're aware of them or not, but which can be harnessed once understood. What you're about to discover is knowledge that has traditionally been available only to the privileged few, often passed privately from mentor to protege, from successful parent to child, or among the elite circles of those who already understood its power. This isn't information that established institutions have an interest in disseminating widely, for reasons that will become clear as we proceed. Most people go through their entire lives never suspecting that there might be a set of principles governing success that, if understood and applied, could dramatically accelerate their progress and multiply their results. They assume that achievement is largely a matter of circumstance, opportunity, or some mysterious quality called luck. Nothing could be further from the truth. The reality which you're about to learn is that success follows predictable patterns. It operates according to laws as consistent as those governing physics or mathematics. Once you understand these laws and align yourself with them, achievement becomes not merely possible but inevitable. I'm not suggesting this will be effortless. Applying these principles requires courage, the courage to break from conventional thinking, to withstand the skepticism of others, to persist when results aren't immediately apparent. It requires discipline to control your thoughts, to maintain focus in the face of distraction, to continue taking action when motivation wanes. And it requires faith, not blind faith, but the reasoned faith that comes from understanding the logic behind these principles and witnessing their effects. But for those willing to embrace this challenge, the rewards are beyond calculation. I'm not speaking merely of financial prosperity, though that often follows. I'm referring to a level of personal power, inner peace, and meaningful achievement that few ever experience. You stand now at a crossroads. One path leads to the continuation of your current trajectory, perhaps with incremental improvements, but fundamentally unchanged. The other path, illuminated by the principles I'm about to share, leads to a transformation so profound that your current life will eventually seem like nothing more than preparation for what you're about to become. Let me now reveal the fundamental principles that have transformed thousands of lives and can do the same for you. The first fundamental principle that underlies all achievement is what I call definiteness of purpose. This isn't merely having goals or vague aspirations, it's the crystallization of desire into a single definite chief aim that becomes the organizing principle of your entire existence. Imagine a magnifying glass in the summer sun. When it focuses scattered light into a single point, it creates enough intensity to start a fire. Your mind works in precisely the same way. Most people scatter their mental energy across dozens of desires, wishes, and concerns, never generating enough concentrated power to manifest significant change. But when you direct the full force of your mental faculties toward one definite purpose, you create an intensity that can burn through any obstacle. Consider the mighty Mississippi River. At its source, it's a stream so narrow you could step across it. Yet by the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico, it carries enough force to reshape the land itself. What makes the difference? Not just its volume, but its channel direction, the way its power is contained and focused toward a single path. I recall a conversation with Thomas Edison during my research. He told me, "Hill, people overestimate what can be accomplished in a year and vastly underestimate what can be accomplished in a decade of focused effort." Edison himself failed over 10,000 times before successfully inventing the practical electric light bulb. What sustained him through these apparent failures? A definiteness of purpose so intense that temporary defeats couldn't diminish it. Let me tell you about Clara, a woman I met in Chicago. For years, she drifted between careers, relationships, and locations, never feeling satisfied but never understanding why. When I helped her identify her definite purposes, establishing a school for disadvantaged children, everything changed. The same woman who had lacked energy and motivation suddenly found herself working tirelessly, overcoming obstacles that would have stopped her cold before, attracting the resources and people needed to manifest her vision. Within 3 years, her school was serving hundreds of students and had become a model for similar institutions across the country. The power of definiteness of purpose lies not just in the focus it creates, but in how it transforms your perception. When you fix your mind on a definite chief aim, you begin to notice opportunities related to its achievement that were always present but previously invisible to you. Your mind becomes a magnet, attracting ideas, people, and circumstances that align with your purpose. Remember this: Until you have identified your definite purpose, you cannot begin to access your full potential. Find it, fix it firmly in your consciousness, and you will have taken the first and most crucial step toward extraordinary achievement. The second principle is the understanding of thought as a creative force. Most people believe that thoughts are passive, responses to external conditions, that we think about our circumstances rather than creating them through our thinking. This misunderstanding is perhaps the greatest barrier to personal power. Thought is not merely reflective, it is generative. The conditions of your life today are the direct result of the thoughts you have consistently held in the past. Your current reality began as thoughts, crystallized into beliefs, translated into actions, solidified into habits, and finally materialized as circumstances. Think of your mind as a garden and your thoughts as seeds. Whatever seeds you plant and nurture will eventually grow and bear fruit. Plant seeds of doubt, fear, and limitation, and your garden will yield precisely those harvests. But consciously plant thoughts of prosperity, courage, and possibility, then tend them with conviction, and different crops will surely emerge. I'm reminded of a steel worker named James who attended one of my lectures. He approached me afterward, skeptical but intrigued, and asked how changing his thoughts could possibly improve his financial situation. I challenged him to conduct an experiment. For 30 days, he would guard his mind vigilantly against negative thoughts about money and consciously cultivate thoughts of abundance and opportunity. 6 months later, James returned to tell me that after decades of financial struggle, he had received a promotion, identified an investment opportunity that his newly positive mindset helped him recognize, and launched a small side business that was already turning a profit. I'm living in the same world, he told me, but seeing completely different possibilities. The mechanism is straightforward. Thoughts produce emotions. Emotions determine actions. Actions establish habits. Habits create results. Change the thought, and you change everything that follows. But here lies the challenge. Controlling your thoughts requires discipline few have developed. Most people allow their minds to dwell on whatever thoughts happen to arise or are triggered by their circumstances. They are, in effect, surrendering the steering wheel of their lives to random influences and external conditions. Mastery begins with the recognition that you can select your thoughts with the same deliberation with which you select your clothes each morning. This is not wishful thinking, it is the practical application of your natural mental capabilities. The third principle I've discovered is what I call the mastermind principle, the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. No great achievement is ever the work of a single individual acting alone. Imagine a car battery with 6 cells. Each cell generates a small amount of electricity on its own. But when properly connected, these cells don't simply add their power, they multiply it. The same phenomenon occurs when minds work in harmony toward a shared objective. The mastermind principle operates on 2 distinct levels. First, there is the practical level, the combined knowledge, connections, and resources that a group brings to bear on a challenge. But beyond this lies something more profound, a psychic force created when minds come together in perfect harmony, generating insights and possibilities that none of the individuals could have conceived independently. Consider Henry Ford. While widely recognized as the father of modern manufacturing, Ford himself admitted to me that his greatest skill was not mechanical knowledge or business acumen, but rather his ability to organize the knowledge and abilities of others. He surrounded himself with those who excelled in areas where he was merely competent or even deficient, creating a mastermind group whose combined intelligence far exceeded the sum of its parts. I witnessed a remarkable demonstration of this principle in a small town in Virginia. A group of 12 business owners, none particularly successful on their own, began meeting weekly to share ideas and support each other's endeavors. Within 18 months, every member of the group had significantly expanded their business. Several had opened additional locations, and 2 had achieved financial results that dwarfed anything they had previously thought possible. The knowledge exchanged played a role, certainly, but each participant described experiencing something greater, a synthesis of energy and insight that elevated everyone involved. You cannot achieve great success alone. Identify those whose talents, knowledge, and qualities complement your own. Approach them with a clear proposition of mutual benefit. Form your mastermind alliance with intentionality, and you'll discover capabilities within yourself that you never knew existed. The fourth principle, and one most often overlooked, is faith not blind, faith based on wishful thinking, but what I call scientific faith rooted in understanding of these success laws. Faith is a state of mind that can be cultivated and developed. Faith operates as a catalyst, transforming ordinary thoughts into spiritual impulses with creative power. When you develop faith in your ability to achieve your definite purpose, you activate forces both within yourself and in your external environment that move you toward your goal. Picture faith as the chemical that transforms the ordinary soil of your thoughts into a supercharged medium, where possibilities grow with supernatural speed and strength. Without this catalyst, even the best ideas and strongest desires remain inert. I'm reminded of a writer who had struggled for years to complete her novel. She had talent, discipline, and a compelling story, but something blocked her progress. After learning this principle, she realized she harbored deep-seated doubts about her abilities and the value of her work. These doubts were subtle but powerful, undermining her efforts at every turn. Through specific techniques I taught her for cultivating faith, she gradually replaced these doubts with unshakable confidence. Within 8 months, she had completed her manuscript, secured a publisher, and begun work on her second book. The development of faith begins with the recognition that you become what you think about most. Fill your mind with doubts, and doubt becomes your reality. Saturate your consciousness with faith in your purpose and abilities, and that faith materializes as circumstances and opportunities. But genuine faith isn't passive. It doesn't wait for evidence before believing. True faith believes first, then watches as the evidence appears. This is why faith can accomplish what logic and reason alone cannot. It is willing to take the first step before the entire staircase is visible. What would you attempt if you knew beyond any doubt that you could not fail? The answer reveals what you might achieve once you develop scientific faith in yourself and your purpose. The fifth principle I've identified is persistence, the sustained application of effort until your purpose is achieved. Regardless of temporary defeats, setbacks, or apparent failures. Persistence is to personal achievement what carbon is to steel, the element that transforms an ordinary metal into something of extraordinary strength and value. Without persistence, talent remains unrealized potential, ideas remain unexplored concepts, and desires remain unfulfilled wishes. Consider the story of one of America's greatest inventors. After thousands of unsuccessful experiments to develop a viable electric light bulb, a reporter asked him, "How does it feel to have failed so many times?" He famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This persistence eventually resulted in one of history's most transformative innovations. I've observed that persistence is not primarily a function of willpower, but of the intensity of one's desire. When your desire is strong enough, persistence follows naturally. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they surrender too soon, often just steps away from success. Richard, an entrepreneur I mentored, launched 4 businesses that failed before beginning his 5th venture. Where others saw evidence that he should pursue a different path, Richard recognized each failure as education, each setback as refinement of his approach. His fifth business succeeded beyond his expectations, and when I asked what made the difference, he said simply, "The only difference between this success and my previous failures is that this time, I refused to stop." Temporary defeat is not permanent failure unless you accept it as such. Behind every great achievement lies a story of obstacles overcome, discouragement endured, and persistence maintained when all external evidence suggested surrender. What are you currently persisting in? What are you willing to endure to achieve your definite purpose? Your answer reveals much about the likelihood of your ultimate success. Now tell me in the comments below, which of these principles speaks most directly to your current situation? Which represents your greatest opportunity for immediate growth? Your response will help me tailor future content to your specific needs. I can almost hear the thoughts forming in your mind right now. These principles sound compelling, Mr. Hill, but my situation is different. You don't understand the specific challenges I face. Let me address the doubts that may be arising as you consider applying these principles to your life. These are not theoretical concepts I'm sharing. They are practical laws that operate regardless of your current circumstances, education level, financial situation, or past failures. Perhaps you're thinking, "I've tried positive thinking before, and it didn't work for me." This objection confuses positive thinking with the systematic application of these success laws. What I'm describing isn't merely adopting a sunny disposition or reciting affirmations in the mirror. It's the deliberate reprogramming of your mind through disciplined thought control, combined with persistent action aligned with your definite purpose. Have you ever wondered why some positive thinkers never achieve significant results? It's because positive thinking without the other elements, definiteness of purpose, faith, persistence, and the mastermind alliances like trying to start a car with just one component of the engine. The system works only when all elements are present and properly aligned. Or perhaps you're thinking, "I don't have the connections or advantages needed to succeed." This objection reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how achievement actually works. The connections you perceive others starting with were themselves the result of applying these very principles. Every advantage you see others possessing was at some point created or attracted through the operation of these laws. Consider this. Andrew Carnegie, who commissioned my research, arrived in America as a poor immigrant boy with no connections, no formal education, and no obvious advantages. Yet he applied these principles, though he didn't articulate them as "I have to become the wealthiest man in the world." What he understood, and what you must grasp, is that resources flow to those who understand and apply the laws of success, not the other way around. Some of you may be thinking these principles might work in normal times, but not during economic hardship or unusual challenges. To this I would ask, have you noticed that even in the most difficult economic conditions, some individuals and organizations continue to thrive? The principles I'm describing don't depend on external economic conditions. They operate independent of them and often in spite of them. During the depths of the Great Depression, I observed individuals who, applying these principles, built fortunes while others around them succumbed to despair. The challenging conditions didn't prevent their success. Rather, these conditions eliminated competition and created opportunities that would not have existed in more prosperous times. Perhaps the most persistent objection is simply, "I don't have enough time." To this, I would respond, do you have time to remain frustrated? Do you have time to continue struggling when you could be thriving? The application of these principles doesn't require more time, it requires a different use of the time you already have. Ask yourself, how much time do you currently spend consuming information that doesn't serve your purpose? How many hours do you devote to activities that neither advance your goals nor provide genuine restoration? The issue isn't lack of time, but lack of clarity about how to use the time you have. Some of you may be wondering, if these principles are so powerful, why isn't everyone using them? The answer is both simple and profound. These concepts, while easily understood intellectually, require a transformation of habit and thought that most are unwilling to undertake. The principles are available to all, but applied by few. Consider how many people know that regular exercise and proper nutrition lead to better health, yet fail to apply this knowledge consistently. Information alone doesn't create transformation. Application does. And persistent application of these success principles requires confronting and overcoming the greatest obstacle you'll ever face: yourself. Have you ever noticed how quickly people embrace limiting beliefs about what's possible for them? How readily they accept the notion that their dreams are unrealistic? How easily they surrender to obstacles that, with persistence, might have been overcome? The truth is that the greatest barriers to your success aren't external. They're the internal doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs that you've accepted as truth, often without consciously choosing to do so. These mental barriers feel real precisely because you've never systematically challenged them. I challenge you now to consider, what if the limitations you perceive aren't facts but merely assumptions? What if the obstacles you see as insurmountable are actually opportunities for growth and differentiation? What if the very challenges you wish would disappear are the catalysts needed for your greatest achievements? Now that you understand the individual principles that govern achievement, it's essential to recognize that these laws do not operate in isolation. They form an integrated system where each element strengthens and amplifies the others. Think of these principles not as separate tools, but as interconnected parts of a single powerful mechanism for creating the life you desire. When properly integrated, these principles create what I call a success consciousness, a complete restructuring of your mental approach that transforms how you interact with the world and how the world responds to you. Let me offer you a metaphor to understand how these principles work together. Imagine your mind as a fertile field. Definiteness of purpose is the selection of precisely what crop you intend to grow. Thought as creative force is the quality of the seeds you plant. The mastermind principle represents the expert farmers whose knowledge and assistance you enlist. Faith is the nourishment and cultivation you provide. And persistence is your commitment to tending this field regardless of weather conditions, pest problems, or other challenges until the harvest is complete. Neglect any of these elements, and your results will be diminished or entirely prevented. But integrate them properly, and your harvest becomes virtually assured. Consider how these principles reinforce each other. A clear, definite purpose naturally strengthens your ability to control your thoughts, directing them toward your goal. Controlled thoughts focused on your purpose naturally build faith in your ability to achieve it. Growing faith makes it easier to maintain persistence through challenges. Persistence attracts like-minded individuals who join your mastermind alliance. And the support of your mastermind group further clarifies and empowers your definite purpose. This is not theory, but practical application. Sarah, an entrepreneur I advised, provides a perfect example of this integration. She began with a crystal-clear purpose: creating affordable healthcare solutions for underserved communities. This definite purpose allowed her to direct her thoughts consistently toward opportunities and solutions rather than obstacles. As she controlled her thought patterns, her faith in her ability to achieve this purpose naturally increased. This growing faith enabled her to persist through 3 years of setbacks that would have deterred most people. Her persistence attracted partners with complementary skills and resources, a powerful mastermind alliance, and the combined knowledge and energy of this alliance further refined and amplified her original purpose. Within 5 years, Sarah's organization was serving thousands of patients who previously had no access to quality health care. When I asked what she considered the most important factor in her success, she couldn't identify just one. They all worked together, she explained. Remove any piece, and the whole system would have collapsed. Let me provide you with a simplified framework for implementing these integrated principles in your daily life. Begin each day by reviewing your definite purpose. Make this the first conscious thought of your morning. Set aside time specifically for controlled thinking, not passive musing, but active, directed thought focused on your goals and opportunities. Meet regularly with your mastermind group, even if initially this consists of just one supportive partner. Develop your faith through daily affirmation of your capabilities and regular study of these principles. Plan each day to include at least one persistent action toward your goal, regardless of how small. End each day by reviewing your progress and planning the next day's definite actions. This simple framework, applied consistently, sets in motion forces that begin redirecting your life toward your defined objectives. The key is integration, not applying these principles occasionally or in isolation, but weaving them together into a new way of thinking and acting. When fully integrated, these principles don't just produce external results, they transform who you are. And ultimately, that transformation is the greatest achievement of all. The moment has arrived for you to make a fundamental choice, perhaps the most important choice of your life. Having learned these principles, will you be among the rare few who translate knowledge into action? Or will you join the overwhelming majority who understand but never apply? The difference between where you stand today and where you could be 1 year from now is not determined by your circumstances but by your decisions. And your first decision must be made now, in this moment, as my words still resonate in your mind. Do not wait for perfect conditions to begin applying these principles. Perfect conditions never arrive. Every great achievement in human history began in circumstances that appeared less than ideal to outside observers. Had the achievers waited for better conditions, their contributions would have remained forever unrealized. The cost of delaying is far greater than you might imagine. Each day you postpone taking definite action. The mental patterns that have created your current reality grow stronger and more entrenched. Each day of inaction reinforces the very thought habits you must change to create different results. Consider this sobering reality. 5 years from now, you will surely arrive. The question is not whether you'll reach that future date, but what you'll have created by the time you get there. 5 years will pass regardless of what you decide in this moment. But where those 5 years take you depends entirely on whether you begin applying these principles today. I have shared with you laws that have transformed thousands of lives, laws that operate with unfailing precision when properly applied. I have revealed principles that the most successful individuals throughout history have used to achieve extraordinary results. I have given you the precise formula for translating your desires into their physical equivalent. The responsibility now rests entirely with you. You alone must decide whether you will continue accepting the results that your current thinking inevitably produces, or whether you will reconstruct your thinking to create the life you truly desire. You alone must determine whether the desire for change burns strongly enough within you to overcome the inertia of established habits. You alone must choose whether to remain among the 97% who never discover their true capabilities, or to join the 3% who actualize their potential and create extraordinary lives. What separates these groups is not talent, opportunity, or circumstance. It is simply this: the decision to apply what they know. Begin today by defining your purpose with absolute clarity. Not vague aspirations, but specific, definite objectives with deadlines for their achievement. Write this purpose down, review it daily, let it become the dominant thought in your consciousness. Start immediately to guard your thinking with vigilant attention, rejecting thoughts that contradict your purpose and cultivating those that support it. Remember that your thoughts are the only thing in the universe over which you have complete control, and that control is absolute when you choose to exercise it. Identify today the individuals who will form your mastermind alliance, those whose knowledge, skills, and attitudes will complement your own and accelerate your progress. Approach them with clear proposals that offer mutual benefit. Cultivate unshakable faith through daily review of these principles and regular affirmation of your capability to achieve your purpose. Faith is not wished for, but developed through systematic mental practice. And finally, commit to persistence beyond any point where others would surrender. Temporary defeat is nothing more than feedback, valuable information about what approach doesn't work. Each failure brings you one step closer to success when you refuse to accept it as final. The power to create extraordinary results exists within you at this very moment. The principles I've shared are the keys to unlocking that power, but only you can turn the key. Subscribe to this channel now if you're committed to this journey of transformation. Leave a comment sharing the most important insight you've gained and how you intend to apply it. By declaring your commitment publicly, you create an accountability that strengthens your resolve. Remember, what you will become is limited only by what you can conceive with clarity and believe with conviction. The extraordinary life you imagine is not just possible, it is your natural birthright when you align yourself with the laws of success. The time for action is now. Your future is waiting to be created.